Good morning. Today we will start with the chapter 1 of our story. The Merchant of Venice. Let's start. Open your story on page number 3. Money for a friend. Our story starts many years ago, when Venice was a very rich and important city. In those days, lots of Venetian ships crossed the Mediterranean Sea to North Africa and the East. Venetian captains bought many beautiful things abroad, and they took them back home to sell in Venetian shops. One of the most important men in Venice at that time was Antonio, who was a very rich merchant. Antonio had many friends in the city of Venice, but his best friend of all was Bassanio. Bassanio was a handsome young man from a good family, but he wasn't rich. When Bassanio's father died, he left Bassanio only a little money, and Bassanio had spent it all. Antonio, the merchant of Venice, was a kind and generous man. From time to time, because he was a good friend to Bassanio, he gave money to the young man to help him when things were difficult for him. The word buy is in the present tense, and the past is bought, and it means that to give money for something. Sell is in the present tense, and the past is sold, and it means that to take money for something. Merchant means that this man buys and sells things. Bassanio wanted to marry Portia, a young Venetian woman from a good family. Portia was good and beautiful, and because her old father had died not long ago, she was a very rich young woman, too. Portia was the old man's only daughter, and her mother had died when Portia was a young child. So Portia now had all her father's money, and she lived in an enormous house in the country. Because of this, lots of young men visited Portia to ask her to marry them. From England, Scotland, France, Germany, and Naples, they came to Portia's house in Belmont. They went there with many servants, and they gave her lots of expensive presents. Bassanio didn't have enough money to do this, and he felt miserable about that. For the time being, Portia had not agreed to marry anybody, but Bassanio was worried that she would soon be tired of saying no, and would say yes to somebody. The word marry means that to make somebody your wife or husband, and the word agree means that to say yes. So, Bassanio went to ask Antonio for his help. Antonio was delighted to see his young friend. How are you? He said with a smile. You must tell me all about this young woman that you want to marry. So Bassanio told Antonio about his plans. I think that Portia likes me, he finished. And if I can visit her wearing beautiful new clothes, with lots of servants, and lots of expensive presents for her, maybe she'll agree to marry me. But I have no money left. So could you lend me some money to help me visit Portia and ask her to marry me? If I don't do it soon, I'm worried that some rich man will go there before me and ask Portia to marry him, and that she'll agree to it. Smiling, Antonio answered his friend, Bassanio, I'd love to help you, but I've got no money right now. All that I have is in my ships at sea. One has gone to Tripoli, another to Lisbon, a third to England, a fourth to India, and a fifth to Mexico. Now I'm waiting for them all to return. When they do, I'll be 3 times richer than I was before, and I can give you all the money that you want. Then he saw the sad look in Bassanio's eyes, and, feeling sorry for the young man, he said, Don't worry, my friend, because you need the money now. I'll borrow it from Shylock and give it to you today. I want you to marry Portia and be happy. Shylock the moneylender was very rich. He lent money to people, and made them pay back more than they had borrowed. He loved money more than anything, more than his family, and more than his friends. But he wasn't a very popular man in Venice, and he didn't have many friends, because he was so mean money on things. The word lend is in the present tense, and the past is lent, and it means that to give for a short time. The word borrow, to take for a short time, and moneylender Thisman's job is to lend money to people. The word pay is the present tense for the word paid in the past, and means that to give money to somebody. He wasn't even kind to his only daughter, Jessica. She never went outside the house, and Shylock's house was always very cold inside. His wife, Leah, had died years before, so Jessica did all the housework for her father. She cleaned, and cooked, washed, and tidied for him. Her father never said thank you to her for all her hard work. He didn't give her much money or much food to eat. And he never bought her any new clothes, so the poor girl had to wear her mother's old things. Shylock hated Antonio, because Antonio sometimes lent money to friends for free, and this was very bad for Shylock's business. So he was waiting for the right time to hurt Antonio, if he could. That afternoon Antonio went with Bassanio to see Shylock. He asked the moneylender if he could borrow 3,000 gold coins from him. When all my ships come back to Venice, I can give you your money back, he said. I don't often lend money, and I never borrow money for myself. But Bassanio, my best friend, has asked me for help when I don't have any money to hand. So I'd like to borrow this sum from you now, if you agree. At first, Shylock wasn't very happy with the plan. What will happen if all your ships cross dangerous waters and sink in storms at sea before they return to Venice? You won't have the money to pay me. Then he had an idea and smiled. Look. Let's be friends, he said to Antonio. I'll be glad to lend you this money for free. You're a kind and generous man, and I want to show you that I can be as kind and generous as you are. But for you a joke, I've got an idea, and maybe you can agree to it. My idea is this: if you can't pay me back the money that I lend you on time. The businesses, work, and the joke is a thing you say, to do, or to make people laugh. The pound is half a kilo, flesh is a soft part of a person's body, sign is to write your name, to show that you agree, bond is an old word for a paper, which says that you agree to do something. You must pay me a pound of your flesh, and you must agree that I can cut it from any part of your body that I want. Bassanio was worried by this joke, and he didn't feel comfortable with Shylock's plan. Shylock wants to harm you. Don't agree to this, he said quietly in Antonio's ear. But Antonio laughed, saying, Don't worry. My ships will come home safely and on time, and I won't have to give Shylock a pound of my flesh. You'll see. So Antonio, Shylock, and Bassanio went at once to the moneylender's office. There Antonio signed a bond that said Shylock would lend him 3,000 gold coins for 3 months, and that he would give Shylock a pound of his flesh if he couldn't pay him back on time. After that was done, Shylock put the gold coins into Antonio's hands. Now, let's solve the activities on page number 8. The first picture is for Antonio. What about the second picture?
Bassanio.
And the third one is for
Portia.
What about the last picture?
Shylock.
A. Handsome is
Bassanio.
B. Mean.
Shylock.
D. Beautiful. Can you guess?
Portia.
2. Complete the sentences with these words. 1. Bassanio wants to marry Portia. It's your turn now.
2. Bassanio wants to lend some money from Antonio.
3. Antonio's money is in his ships at sea.
4. Shylock says that he'll borrow money to Antonio for 3 months.
5. Shylock wants a pound of Antonio's flesh if he can't pay back the money on time.
6. Bassanio told Antonio not to agree to Shylock's plan.
7. Antonio wasn't worried about his ships coming home safely and he signed Shylock's bond.
3. Rewrite these words from chapter 1. Then complete each sentence with own word. 1. Rich.
2. Business.
3. Moneylender.
4. Merchant.
5. Idea.
6. Joke.
7. Bond.
1. Antonio is a merchant in Venice.
2. Bassanio is from a good family, but he isn't rich.
3. Shylock is a rich moneylender.
4. When Antonio lends money for free, it is bad for Shylock's business.
5. Shylock has an unusual idea. Antonio can't give him back the money on time.
6. Shylock told Antonio that it was only a joke.
7. After Antonio signed the bond, Shylock gave him 3,000 gold coins.
4. What do you think happens next? Tick 2 boxes, let's start.
1. Different young men ask Portia to marry them. Is true.
2. Portia agrees to marry a prince is false.
3. Bassanio prepares to visit Portia is true.
4. Bassanio asks Antonio for more money. Is true.
Thanks for your answer. We have finished chapter 1 today. See you tomorrow to start with chapter 2. Goodbye, have a nice time.